Hi guys, in this video we're going to look at two things. One, how to add a custom theme to Ignition Perspective, and the second thing is how to add custom CSS. So if you want to create your own animations or add your own CSS to Ignition Perspective projects, we'll look at how to do that in this video. So the motivation for this video came both from the forum and also I was poking around on the Ignition Exchange. You can see here the URL inductiveautomation.com/exchange. And I found this project here, or snippet. It's called Animation CSS Library. If you log into the Exchange, you can download it. We'll need it for this video. We'll use it as an example. So this is a custom theme that will import animate.css. If we take a look at that, it's just an easy to use animation library. So all you have to do to add it to use this library is just to add the class to your component. So we click on Flash, see what that does. I think we can even modify it here. Let's select this H2 and let's add animated bounce. Then you can see, so all you have to do is just add a CSS class to your component and then it'll do the animation, like the keyframes and everything else for you. So it's a very nice library, and here Ray Sensenbach packaged it up for us so that it follows the hierarchy that inductive automation wants you to use when adding custom themes. Okay, so let's get started. That was a lot of mumbo jumbo. To start, you want to download this little project here. You'll have to create a user account here or create or log in so that you can download this project. I already downloaded it here and I already extracted it as well. So when you download it, go to your downloads folder, click on it, click here, extract all. I extracted it, as you can see here, right underneath. And then you're going to see this folder structure here. You want to go to other. You'll see another zipped folder called themes.zip. Go ahead and extract that as well. And you can see that I already did that here. Under themes, click themes again. And we have the two files, and we have the two items we need to add a theme to Ignition. We have the directory and this file. Let's go ahead and copy this. We'll copy this, and I'll hit Control-N and open a new File Explorer window, and then go browse to the Ignition installation location. So if you're on a 64-bit machine, it should be Program Files, Inductive Automation, Ignition. Here's the root directory where Ignition is installed. The actual where the themes live is in Data, Modules, Perspective Module, Themes, and in this directory here, you'll see the same structure. You have an entry file, light.css, and then a corresponding directory called light. So if you remember, that's what we copied over. Light animations.css is the entry point, and then we have the directory light animations, which contains all of our CSS, as you'll see here in a minute. Let's go ahead and copy and paste in here. It's going to require administrative privileges. It's because the Ignition service is running and it's reading from this directory. I think that's what it has to do with. And throughout this process, it'll be kind of annoying because we have to keep granting administrative privileges so that we can copy and modify the files in this directory, but we'll get through it. All right, so let me open this directory in VS Code. That way we have a nicely formatted view of the files here and also the README file. Okay, here it is. Let me click on readme.md. I'll open the preview actually. And you can read all about themes in Perspective and best practices and whatnot. Rules you should follow for your theme to be recognized by Ignition on startup. You'll see the available themes. These are the themes that are included with Ignition, at least my installation. I'm running the Maker Edition version 8.16, I believe, which doesn't exist. You aren't able to download that anymore. I think the current version that replaces 8.16 is 8.17. Obviously, they released a patch a few days after it was released. Anyway, that's besides the point. So the entry point, you can read about all the different things that are said here. Some important things I'll point out. Both the light and dark, these two locations here, light and dark, these are themes that are owned by Inductive Automation, light and dark. And any changes you make to those directories will be overridden on startup. So here, that means any changes will be discarded on startup. However, you can make changes to light.css and dark.css. We'll actually do that later to add our own custom CSS. So when you read through this document here, it talks about using CSS variables. That way you can reuse. That way you can store colors, for example, in one location. And then if you ever need to change colors for a theme, you can change them in one location and you don't have to track it down. The variables in CSS are nice. Import statements are very important. They need to be formatted a specific way. Here you can see they're double or single quotes. They need to start with an @import and then end with a semicolon. This is so that Perspective loads all the imported CSS files. You'll see that as well. It talks about overriding and adapting themes. This we will actually use to add our own custom CSS. And it talks about creating custom themes. So we'll cover this process here. I'll show you based on the folder and the file we just copied how all of that works. Hopefully this makes it clear. Here's that light-animations.css file that we copied over. And you can see, you can track down, there's CSS stands for cascading style sheets, and you'll see this behavior, the cascading behavior. It's like a waterfall. It starts from the top here, the light animations. Also, it needs to follow this format, by the way. All the entry files here need to be in this format, need to be formatted in this way. There needs to be an entry file for the entry file to point to the directory here, so that in the designer you'll be able to find those CSS files and actually be able to use those style classes. All right, so light-animations.css contains one import, and it refers to a file index.css inside this directory. If we look at this file, again, think of the waterfall. It imports variables, fonts, globals. It imports all of these CSS files are coming from the light directory here. Another important point, every theme, including the ones that are included in any installation of Ignition, every theme is extended from the light theme. Even the dark theme, if you look here in dark, if you look at index.css, you'll see there are still files being imported from the light theme here. And then we have a palette, and the palette is where the actual dark theme colors come in. So they override the light theme. Every theme extends the light theme. That's why you see when you go to light-animations in index.css, we're importing all of the light themes. And then the last file here is our custom animate.css file that we're importing. We'll take a look at it here. Animate-css is the directory, animate.css is the file. If we take a look at it here, animate.css, it imports other files here. So _vars.css, which we see right here. And now we have the actual CSS. So this is the cascading nature. We start with imports, and then eventually we get to regular old CSS. If you look, it imports _base.css. Here, this is also regular old CSS. If you've seen CSS before, this is what it looks like. And then it imports the style class of the actual animation. So if we look at attention seekers, bounce.css here, you'll see the actual CSS code to get this effect here, the bounce. There we go. You see the keyframes and the style class here, bounce. All right, so let's pivot a little bit. And let's open the designer and take a look at how to set our project theme to our custom theme that we just added, light-animations. So I'm going to create a new project here. That way I don't interfere with any other project and change the theme on accident. Testing CSS files. Default database. Won't need a database probably. I'll just create the project. This will be for testing purposes. So once this opens here, you'll see on the right side, we have session properties. One of the session properties here you can see is a theme. This will set the theme for the session. And there's a drop down here. The only themes you'll see are light and dark. That's because those are the ones that are maintained by Ignition. However, we can also call our custom theme here. Remember, it was called light animations. Let's hit enter there. I don't know why it's that way. I would like to see all of the themes like light-cool. So any other theme that lives in this directory, I don't know why you don't see them, just the light and the dark one. It doesn't make sense to me. So how do we know that our Ignition designer is actually reading our light-animations theme? Well, let's test it real quick. Let's create a new view. Flex container, we'll create the view. Let's drag on, really you can drag on anything, but I'll drag on a button and then there's an event we can add. So let's add an on action performed, and then the action, we want theme here. And then under select theme, we'll see our light animations theme is being recognized by Ignition. So it will be set here, as you'll see, we'll set it on a couple of labels and whatnot. It is being read. I was just confused the first time I did this, why I wasn't showing up in this drop down. Okay, so as I said, let's add a label and let's try to use our new custom theme and the animation classes or the animation styles that are included in that theme. Remember, it extends the light theme. So all of the components will be styled in the exact same way as the light theme would, but then it also adds some extra functionality. So let's drag on a label. Label, there we go. I'll make this bigger. Font, C's, 64 pixels. There we go. And this I will set to 100 pixels. There we go. Or maybe 300 pixels. That way we can see the animation. So all you need to do now, right, to add the bounce class is go to your label, go to classes here, and add, let's take a look what we need to add. So we already looked at the class here. Bounce. It was even open. There we go. So all of these files here are being imported. You can track it down. It starts from light animations. We know our theme is working. So you go to light-animations/index.css. You go here. And then the last file here. Also, another point. It's important what order you import these in. If you import your file before the light theme, and for example, you change borders on certain components, it'll affect the rest. It'll overwrite the rest of the, or it can overwrite the rest of the components here, the component styling. So it's important. Whenever you add custom CSS, I would advise to add it as the last line in the import. Okay, so then we go to animate.css here, vars and _base. We see these two files. And then we see our bounce.css is being imported. And so we basically, all this means is that Ignition, the designer, and the gateway, it is aware of this bounce class. So all we need to do now is copy this over and paste it in our classes section here. And it should work, right? So we hit enter. Let's save and launch a session. Sometimes it doesn't work in the designer. So we see that nothing happens. There is no bounce animation, no matter how many times I refresh. Let's take a look at the actual component. I'll open DevTools. Sorry, there we go. And when I hover over this component, I can take a look at the classes here. So there's the span the label, and then the actual class, the styling on the div. And we can see a class. It's not what we added though. You can see that it's called PSC-bounce, and we only added bounce. And the fact is, every time you add a class, Ignition, the gateway, or the program will prepend this this term here, PSC, Perspective Style Class, I'm guessing, and then a dash, and then your class. So how do we then use the bounce class when Ignition prepends this for us? Well, what you can do, and this is what we will actually do, is go to this file here, go to the actual CSS file, and let's modify it. Let's just add psc-bounce. All right, it says I'm not able to save. My autosave is turned on. If it's not, just go click Control-S or File Save, and you're going to get a prompt that it failed to save. Hit Retry as admin. You should also be able to do this in any other notepad or like text editor, Notepad++. All right, so now the class is called psc-bounce, and it should work now. So psc-bounce, and then here we have bounce. Let's save and go back into the session and refresh this. And you can see, once again, it doesn't work. Something's not working, even though our classes match up now. Well, and this time, it's actually not our fault entirely. It is your fault if you didn't read the documentation. So I found out in the documentation, anytime you use an animation class, you have to import or you have to also add this class here called animated. And we saw this class. If you remember, it's in our base _base.css. So it's in animate-css _base.css. There's this class here. This class will apply the actual animation to our component. So on this class, let's also add psc-animated. That way, when we add just animated, this part to the component, it'll apply this class here. So let's once again retry as admin. The screen's going to go black. And then we saved here. And let's go back here and add another class here. So we'll add animated, and then hit enter. And we see once again nothing happened, but let's save and open it in the session. And when we refresh, we'll see that it does apply this time. So let's take a look at the component once again. We see the classes here being applied are animated and bounce, which is what we want. All right, so that is pretty much all that there is to adding a custom theme, integrating Animate.css. If you want to use these other themes here, so for example, flippers, flip.css, you would just prepend psc- and then the class. So flip out. So for example, let's try flip out x. You would just add psc- flip out x. Maybe someday I'll go through these, correct them all, and then add it to the Ignition Exchange. Let me know if you'd be interested in that. That way you don't have to correct them. And then let's hit retry as admin just to save it once again. It's annoying, but it is what you have to do. And then let's try this class, flip out x instead of bounce, and you'll see that it also applies the certain style or the animation. There we go. Let's save, go back here, refresh. Cool. We see that our style is being applied. And the same structure kind of follows if you want to use other classes, other CSS libraries or collections. You would follow the same sort of structure here, the same hierarchy. It's important to use the entry-level file and then the directory and a certain structure in your directory to make sure to import the files, import them in the correct manner, and so on. All right, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to see how you can add a custom CSS file where you can add your custom CSS. So if you want certain animations that you want to make on your own, we'll see how to do that here. So I found the easiest way to do this is to have two directories open, and let's add a directory here called custom. So create this directory not in the inductive automation one because it's going to throw a bunch of fits because you don't have permissions, because the service is whatever else. So we'll just create it here, custom, and then inside the custom file. So it's in a different location. This is in my downloads folder. This is in the Ignition installation location. Let's create a file here called style.css. All right, I want to change it. Cool. All right, let's copy now, or cut. I'm going to cut Control X, this custom file, and paste it in here. And when you do that, you can paste it. If you were to delete it, it wouldn't let you. You would need to stop the service, but you can paste stuff in, I found. All right, so we have custom style.css here in this location. So let's open it in VS Code once again. Let's modify the style.css. So let me close a few of these folders. We see custom here. In my style.css, I'm going to add my own style. So I want to be able to use it in the designer. So I'll add the PSC prefix, and I'll call it my custom style class. In camel case, I think that's the convention. So I'm going to apply two styles. I'm going to set the color to red and the background color to steel blue, something unique. That way we can see that our style is being applied. Let's save this. All right. So it's not going to work. Let's try this. Sorry, I was getting ahead of myself. If we copy this over, even though we saved this file, so save, should be saved. When we apply it to our label here, it won't work. As you can see, it doesn't work in the designer. It doesn't work in the session either. There's no style being applied. That's because we're not importing our file here. So Perspective has no way of knowing that this custom style.css file even exists. So this is where it's important, because every theme extends the light theme. There are a couple places we can add the import. We can add the import here, index.css, import our custom style, because this file here, this whole directory, index.css, is being imported here, app index.css here. But since we're already using the light-animations theme in this project, let's go ahead and go here, go to index.css, and let's add our custom import. So once again, there are many different locations you can place this in. Add the actual import, but we will place it here at the very end. We'll add an @import statement, and we'll say custom style.css, terminate it with a semicolon. There we go. And let's retry as admin once again, save, black screen. Alrighty, so now we should be able to copy this class. Let's copy this class once again. Make sure to add it to our label. Save. Let's go back to our session here. If we refresh, we can see that our custom style is being applied. It's being read by the gateway, and it's being applied to this label. Remember, we had color red, background color steel blue, and you can see even the class here, PSC-my custom style class. That's just one way to do it. That's how I would do it. But once again, there's kind of flexibility of where you actually add the import statement for your custom CSS files. All right, that is about all I had for you guys today. Hopefully that was helpful. Let me know in the comments if you have questions, or on Discord, or if you want to see other CSS libraries, how you would use those. But other than that, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.